Welcome to Encounter, where we celebrate putting faith into action and community leaders who live out compassion, grace, and love. We're a program of the Broome County Council of Churches that addresses food insecurity through CHOW and the Greater Good Grocery, provides hospital and jail ministry, builds wheelchair ramps, and assists neighbors with transportation and shopping services through Faith in Action volunteers. We invite you to the conversation. Encounter your neighbors as we learn to walk together in love and kindness.
Good morning and welcome to Encounter. I'm your host today, Joe Sellepack, Executive Director at the Broome County Council of Churches. One of the important events that occurs within the Broome County area has been for many years the Children of Abraham. But there's been a shift at Children of Abraham into more of a interfaith quality to it. And to help us talk a little bit about the interfaith movement, as well as some of the current developments. One of the things that they're trying to work at is a peace walk for today that'll take place at 6:30 tonight. So to help us talk about these are Becky Kindig, who is the parish.
I'm the associate pastor at the United Presbyterian Church of Binghamton.
All right, associate pastor. I know some of your children from Northminster Presbyterian. I know that they attend there, and they're also your son. I think operates the technology for that service. Yes. Anyway, so welcome to Encounter, Becky.
Thank you.
And Douglas Taylor. He's the Unitarian Universalist minister at the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Binghamton. Welcome back to Encounter.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
It's been a while.
Oh, I'm always going to keep turning up though.
Yeah. It's always good. And we've talked about Easter. There's been a whole slew of things that we've talked about over the years. And Becky, welcome back to Encounter as well.
Thank you.
So let's talk about the shift that's taken place and the and why you felt that it was important.
All right. Well, one of the things that it's valuable to honor is the past, the history. The Children of Abraham had been a group that came together several years back across the three Abrahamic traditions to be able to meet each other and to do things together, to partner and to. I think one of the phrases that we unofficially kept repeating is to be ambassadors of our faiths to our neighbors, to help people know, not to convert people, but to let people know that we can partner and we can do things together, Muslim, Jew, Christian, together doing things. And so at that time, that was predominantly who we saw in communities that were hosting congregations, places of worship. And so that's where we put our focus. More recently, we're wanting to expand to a multi-faith or an interfaith way of being in Broome County to recognize that Broome County has more ways of being spiritual and religious than even that very broad Children of Abraham perspective. We're looking broader.
And Becky, what are some of those faiths that we're kind of looking to attract, I guess?
So in our work over at the university on the Interfaith Council at Binghamton University, we know that there are Hindu and Buddhist and Sikh and I'm forgetting Baha'i. So there's all kinds of people here in the area that we want to get to know, do things with, and show people that people with some differences can work and talk together, and we really have a lot more in common than we do different. There are some key tenets that all of us have different, but most of them are the same. We do value caring for other people. We value the earth. We all pray in different ways. So there's a lot that we have together, and we learn a lot from each other in doing that.
One of the the posters that I have hanging up in my wall has how many all the various faiths that you've just talked about, and all of their approaches toward the golden rule, which is, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and all of them have that tenet in one variety or another all the way around. And so if you're Unitarian, if you're Baha'i, if you're Sikh, if you're Hindu, Jewish, Muslim, every faith, even Zoroastrians, have a various way of approaching that one tenet in itself, and which basically shows us that how we treat other people is important, and as you said, and it's something that I think that most of our listeners should resonate with, because we all want to be treated well, so we should treat other people well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the concept of doing your own spiritual work and developing your own relationship with the holy is an important aspect for a lot of traditions, but this piece that you're talking about now with an ethic of how we treat someone other than us is there in all of the traditions. How you meet other people and respond to them is a deeply important aspect everywhere.
Now, Becky, one of the things, I know you're a Presbyterian, and so Presbyterians are well steeped within the tradition of Presbyterian, like the Westminster Catechism and a whole bunch of other things that kind of come from that. How important? What is being involved in interfaith dialogue meant to you as a Presbyterian? Has it strengthened your faith in some ways, or how has it helped you grow?
Absolutely, it strengthens my faith with every encounter. I've been interfaith, I think, longer than I've been Presbyterian. I grew up Catholic and started exploring different traditions in high school, and then especially in college. I became Presbyterian when I married my husband, who was Presbyterian. But all along the way, I have found it really valuable to learn what other traditions carry. So many of our stories are similar, so it's really fascinating to learn those and the nuances, and this part is the same, but this part is different. Let's look at that. What happened there that made that different? And that really is really interesting to learn, as well as the different ways of the values that we hold similarly, like how we treat other people, how we treat the environment, all of those things, that we can do all these things together. Our differences don't need to keep us apart. They can just strengthen us. So I've been doing this for quite a while, and it has definitely strengthened my faith for sure.
And Douglas, I mean, you how about you and your spiritual journey? How is being involved with interfaith dialogue, what has it meant to you?
Well, there's a little bit in which among Unitarian Universalists, there's a feeling that we're doing interfaith work among ourselves. One of the tenets that we've more recently said more explicitly as Unitarian Universalists is that we're values-centric rather than belief-centric, and that the values we have are what bind us together as a faith tradition. A lot of religious traditions need something that is their binding thing, and for example, most Protestant Christians, it would be Jesus, right? A belief in a certain way. And that's not how we do things. And so it's our values of respect for each other, of encouraging our each other on our different paths, and learning more and loving those differences. Doing no harm, it's not about let everyone do whatever. There's also a promise to take care of each other. And so some of that interfaith work of finding the differences in a way that you can honor it, not because it's the same. The same pieces are great, like we all agree around things like peace and respect, but some of the differences are beautiful. That's where harmony gets, like the metaphor of music, if we all sang the same note, there'd be no harmony, right? And it's finding those pieces is where the real beauty shows up.
And I can say, as a Methodist minister, and we are firmly Trinitarian. Jesus is incredibly important to our faith, as it is, I think, to Presbyterians as well.
Absolutely.
That one of the things that I find interesting about interfaith dialogue is the fact that I find that some of the baggage I carry with me is more conditioned culturally than it is about the faith. For instance, one of my conversations I had with I grew up evangelical, so it was one of the things that was really at one point in time in my life was really important was voting correctly, because that was something that I associated with being an evangelical, and so this was when Ronald Reagan was running for office and all the rest of that thing. My family ended up moving to Australia, and so I show up there while they are in the middle of their elections, and I start talking to evangelicals in Australia about how they were voting. And because it was part of the church when I was growing up, everybody talked about who they were voting for, and it was almost like it was a voting block. And so they started saying to me, "We don't talk about that." And I go, "Well, you don't? No, that's a private thing. We don't talk about that." And I found out that the majority, through private conversations with people, that some of them voted liberal, some of them voted progressive, some of them voted green. It didn't, and whatever was going on within that had something to do with their faith, but it wasn't the faith itself, if that makes any sense. And so I found out that a lot of the things that I was carrying with me were more culturally adapted than not. And I wouldn't have found that out unless I had been involved in talking with somebody else about how they approached the faith. And I find that exemplified over and over again when I talk to a Buddhist, or when I talk to, even more so when I talk to a Jewish or a Muslim about their approach to the law, or their approach to the what I consider to be the Old Testament, what they consider to be scriptures. Right. So it's just a very interesting thing that you end up carrying with you. Have you found that to be true in how you approach your faith, Becky?
Oh, absolutely. There are countless things that have come up over the years that could have been, that have been those, eye-opening moments, like, oh, that's not a Christian thing, that's a cultural thing, or something like that. So yeah, those have been really touching, heartwarming moments most of the time, for sure. And I hear that over and over again from people of different faiths that we work with together, especially in the Islamic tradition, when there are so many cultures that come together, worshiping together. I can't just meet one person who is Muslim and then know everything about it, because there are all these cultural traditions. My sister-in-law is Muslim, and so she's from Indonesia, so there's a whole bunch of things that she does, and I thought, okay, here's everything I need to know, but then meeting others, like, oh no, that's a cultural thing and not a Muslim thing. So yeah, it's just fascinating. I love learning all of those differences.
And I had a professor on a little while ago who is a professor of world religions, who specialized in Muslim faith, and he said basically that if you can't tell the difference between a Sunni, a Shia, and a Sufi, and how Sufi might interact with both Sunni and Shia, then you have no business talking about Islam.
Right.
And I think that's probably accurate. You find, as you said, there are cultural differences, but then even within the faith itself, there are some important differences that exist, and you find that out through interfaith dialogue, I think. So Douglas, my guests today are Douglas Taylor, the minister at Unitarian Universalist, but the current chair, I think is the term, for Interfaith Broome County, and Becky Kindig, who is the associate pastor at United Presbyterian and is a member. And you all are helping us today to kind of develop an idea around a peace walk. Now, what is this walk, and how can people connect with it?
So, I mean, the idea, I think you should start talking about this, because you're the one who bumped into this idea so we had a convening meeting, like a meet and greet with we put it out there, hey, new people, come show up, and we gave some food, and we sat at tables and we talked, and this peace walk idea came up at a table you were at, right?
Yeah, so that meet and greet to redevelop as Interfaith Broome County from Children of Abraham was in May, and a longtime member of Children of Abraham was at our table, Marine, and she just really thought that a peace walk, a time for us all who value peace and all the traditions that were in the room, could get together sometime this summer outside and pray together and show up together and be that visual representation for each other, to say, hey, there are all of these people in our area that are working towards peace in this time where things feel really heavy and things in the world, in our country and in other parts of the world, and even in our own lives. So it would be a way to show up for one another, help each other out, but also pray in this bigger way for peace in all parts of our world and in ourselves. So yeah, she was really hoping that we could, we were kind of generating ideas at tables, and so that was her idea. And we're like, hey, that one could be very easily done. It's a fabulous idea. Let's make that one our first event. So we have lots of more ideas for the future, but this one we thought would be a great first event.
There's so much going on in the world right now that is divisive.
Yeah.
And there are forces around us that are leading us toward more division and more alienation, more separation. And this idea of a peace walk was to meet each other, right, and to not assume that everybody's going to agree, but to create a space in which we can trust that we can be together, and to really bring our full opinion, our full sense of things. The question that we're going to invite people to talk about as they walk around is just simply, what does your faith teach you about peace? And then talk about that. There's a lot of high stakes for some folks, given the global politics, global wars and conflicts that are happening. So we're hoping that this is a way into the conversation that can build some bridges. Building something just takes so long, and it's about trust. And so we're trying to create a space in which that can grow.
And what are some of Becky, what are some of the faith traditions, approaches to peace that you've seen through interfaith work?
They're there's a myriad of different ways. Some people really try to be introspective and really find ways to bring peace to their own self before moving outwards. Others are trying to be very visible demonstrations of peace in the world, so that that message can be spread more quickly. And I think we need all of that spectrum in between to really be able to work towards that peace.
And Douglas, it seems too that you're looking toward creating peace even amongst the folks that are coming to this, because they're, the issues in Palestine, for instance, there are various ways of approaching that are kind of divisive, as well as other issues that are at play within our own community. I know that you and I have had conversations around braver angels, wanting to make sure that Republicans and Democrats themselves can come together and show us that the world is a little bit more purple than what than red or blue. So what are some of your hopes that you feel you want to will emerge from this?
So I think the biggest hope that I have is that people will meet their neighbors and discover that their neighbors are different, but that's okay. Not that they'll discover their neighbors are the same as, like, we all agree, which we don't. But they'll meet their neighbors and discover that they're different and that that's okay. Mm-hmm. There's a really base piece that's at play for a lot of people of needing to belong. Right. We're social creatures. We're not just like out there on our own, bootstrap theology kind of a nonsense, but that we need to interact. We need to participate with people. So the divisive call is rooted in a need to create us a container where we belong and only we belong,
and only
right?
we fit,
and only we fit, and everybody who doesn't fit is bad.
Right.
So my goal is for people to have some of that, if that's where they're living, is for some of that to open up a bit, so that there's a sense of I can still belong and I can still be okay. And I can still be right even. And other people can too. That's what I really want. It's just a starting step.
And so the event that's happening tonight, August 24th at 6:30 p.m. this evening at Otsonengo Park.
Yeah, we've booked the South Pavilion, so we'll have a place to be with a roof, because the weather report, at least a couple of days ago, I haven't looked at it just recently, was rain. So, bring an umbrella,
Bring an umbrella. We can still walk.
Absolutely.
Right.
Or roll.
Yeah.
Exactly. Otsonengo is a great place to do that. So we're going to meet at the South Pavilion. We're going to gather for some prayers in different faith traditions, and then give this question and ask people to find someone that they don't know and walk together around the park, praying, meditating, reflecting on peace, and answering this question together. And then we'll meet back up and disperse.
Mm-hmm.
So that's tonight at 6:30 at Otsonengo Park, South Pavilion.
Yep, right there in the middle of the main circle.
Excellent. And one of the goals for Interfaith Broome County is to continue the good work that you had already begun in the interfaith dialogue that existed within the Children of Abraham. So what are and as you kind of look toward the future, what are some of the things that you anticipate happening?
I can tell you we've got some plans to do similar things that we had done when we were Children of Abraham, which would be bringing in a guest speaker or having a panel to talk about a particular issue, and then opening it up to all of the participants to share in that dialogue in some facilitated ways, some open ways. An idea that we're actively working on right now is in November to host an event that has a service together around gratitude, where we can sing some songs, we can say some prayers, we can offer some reflections around gratitude from our different perspectives. And then to pair
obviously for Thanksgiving, right?
Yep.
related to Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
right? But not to, it's not necessarily going to happen on Thanksgiving
Right.
or Thanksgiving week. It'll be in that tone, right? And we want to pair that with a reception right after of meeting each other across food. So the idea is sort of a show and tell.
Right.
I'll bring a food that is particular to my faith tradition, and I'll describe it and tell you what the ingredients are, because that matters. Some people can't eat certain foods because of their faith traditions, dietary restrictions, right? So then it's an option for people to meet each other through this food, because food is so important to faith. It's sort of a side thing, but it's a vehicle through which we can interact and meet each other.
So we have a Jewish mother who's adopted us at the Council of Churches. It's she volunteers with Faith in Action Volunteers, and she helps do some of the coordination. And one of the things that she always does is she brings in Hamantaschen, which is one of those cookies that comes out over and it's named after Haman, who is part of the Esther story. And so every year when she brings in Hamantaschen, we retell the story of Esther, and it becomes a part of the life at the Council of Churches. It's a very beautiful thing. So
Yeah, Purim is a wonderful event. I've loved attending different Purim events over the years.
yeah,
Nice.
It is. It's a really cool thing. So we have about a minute. So what are the things that you hope for that are less tangible? So why is it important for us to be involved in interfaith dialogue? And I'll leave that up to you, Douglas.
All right. So I will say one of my biggest hopes for the future is that we will have built up enough trust and relationship together so that if something were to happen that is a tragedy or a trauma to the community, the resources of all of our faiths will be available because we know each other, so that we can respond well to something that happens and thrive together.
So Becky Kindig, Douglas Taylor, thank you for being on Encounter today. It's a wonderful conversation.
Joe, it's always great to be invited back, and it's a joy to be with you.
Yes, thanks for having us.
And for all of you, I pray that you would find the generosity and kindness that is exemplified here in your day today. Have a great day.